Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. Yesterday, fired Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all charges for the murder of George Floyd. But what happens next, and how can we work to prevent incidents like this from happening again? Joining us is U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence, who is the second vice chair for the Congressional Black Caucus. Great to speak with you as always. I wish it was on a better occasion. However, we did hear yesterday's verdict. This was the verdict that much of the country was looking for. I want to know what was going through your mind as well.
When the verdict came in, the Black Caucus had assembled together in the Capitol, and I didn't realize how tense I was until I heard the word verdict. And it was this giant, deep sigh of relief. And it was, some members cried, others was like, yes. It was a time that we as the Black Caucus have continuously fought to make sure that justice was had in our judicial system, in a case that the whole world were witness to because of the video. And it was a day of not justice, but of accountability.
And so with that, and I think that is so important that we continue to shed a light on the fact that this was accountability, but justice is the uprooting of a bad system that does not serve all people. And so what steps are being taken right now? Because unfortunately, we've seen similar episodes across the country, and we will get to one of the stories, the unfortunate stories that came out of Columbus, Ohio in a moment. But what do you see as the biggest problems in the relationship between the police officers and Black Americans more on a whole throughout this country?
Well, I feel the George Floyd Act addresses the majority of them, banning the chokeholds, no-knock warrants, accountability when it comes to immunity of police officers. No one should have absolute immunity from their actions. We hold doctors who are one of the highest educated in our country. We hold doctors accountable for their actions, that they do no harm. And when they do, we strip them of their license and we charge them criminally, and we hold them accountable in civil court. And our police should be no different from that. And for those who push back and say, wait a minute, how can a police officer do their job if they don't have this immunity? Let's be very clear. If you are performing the job, the duty, and the responsibility of a trained professional police officer who we put a badge on to protect and serve, if you do have to use force or you do have to pull your weapon with the body cams that the George Floyd Act is requiring, then you would be justified in your actions. But in this case, clearly, it showed that this police officer was not adhering to his training. He was not adhering to his oath of office. And thank God the blue shield or the blue line of protection broke. Because, I was a mayor, and I know police officers take so much pride in their work. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you as a mayor, we need police, but we need police who are trained, who are professional, and who actually take serve and protect as their mantra, and they report to work every day with that. And good police officers don't want the bad ones spoiling their name and their reputation because they're out on another limb. Most of our police are good people, and thank God they're there.
And it seems and sounds from what we've heard over a summer of protests, over our conversations in recent days, weeks, and months, is that we're looking for, and we should have already seen in the system, de-escalation be more present, humanity be more present within policing in communities. And ultimately, going forward from here, and since you brought up the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, this already passed the House in 2020, I believe. So in 2021, going forward, where do you believe the next steps are, and will it pass the Senate?
I'm hopeful. I was just had some pushback and say, come on, you need 10 votes in the Senate, and do you really think that's going to happen? Every movement in this country where we obtain justice and accountability and to correct the wrongs in our country. It took time, it took a commitment, it did not happen swiftly, and it did not happen without a lot of debate, disagreement, but right is right. I'm firmly committed to working using every inch of energy that I have to make sure that we change this behavior in America, because America is not who we are. You saw people of every ethnicity,
Right.
every social group across this country cry from the streets, from the corporate boardrooms, from the media, saying this must stop and we can do a better job. And as my hero, Elijah Cummings always said, we're better than this.
Right.
And we're going to make sure we change this.
Representative, I have to hustle to my finish. I want to get two quick questions in. First and foremost, this just coming in earlier today, the Justice Department opening a sweeping investigation into policing practices in Minneapolis. What do you hope to see from this investigation? And also, I guess the second part of my question, how could it spark change not only in Minneapolis but across the country, given some of the reporting that your own congressional members have also brought into the fold about the infiltration within police officer departments from white supremacist groups and far-right nationalist groups within policing and within some of the other official categories here in the U.S.?
First of all, we must make sure that we change this perception that if you're willing to walk in the door and put a gun on and a bag, bang, you're a police officer. We have to change. And what I hope from the investigation, that we get honesty, that we get the reality of what is happening when we have police officers who, of their own free will, cross the line and inflict prejudice, inflict stereotypes into their policing. Because if you're a Black man with a hoodie on, that does not make you a criminal. That's a stereotype. That's racism. But if you see a young white kid with a hoodie on, it's a good kid. He's just walking down the street. And so we must infuse the facts and the truth into this investigation. And what happens? It's amazing. When you start calling out wrong and you hold that wrong accountable and there's consequences, the wave of change happens in areas where there was never an investigation. Because when you know that if I do this, there will be consequences, there is that internal buffer that starts to happen and start building. And that's what we want to happen. So with this investigation, I pray that it is thorough, it is factual, and that is transparent. And then I know for a fact that we must look at how we hire and who we hire to be police officers, because assessment of being a police officer should be an analytical, diagnostic review and test of your prejudice. We all have some, but my goodness, if you think every time you see a young Black man and he has a certain hairstyle or he's wearing a hoodie, then I must pull my gun because therefore he's criminal, he's violent. And a trained police officer knows how to assess the situation and knows when to pull their gun.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, this has been the case for far too long, and these biases have existed. It's time to uproot them. I wholeheartedly agree with you, your colleagues that were able to join together from the Congressional Black Caucus yesterday and to address not only the verdict, but the steps that need to be taken from here. U.S. Representative Brenda Lawrence joining us today. Thank you so much again for the time. Great to see you and speak with you.